You ever have a pile of books at home to read and you know you don't need any more, but you really want the serotonin spike? Yeah, I'm having that kind of day, so I'm about to go do a book haul at Barnes& and Noble. Come along. need to talk about this book. Yeah, I did some damage. This bag is flipping heavy.
Hey guys, welcome to our book shopping vlog. This is the first full book shopping vlog we've done together on the channel. Jen did a vlog where she visited a store called the Dayton Dollar Book Swap. So we did post a video on that. I will link it up here so you guys can go check that out. But we've decided to do a full book shopping vlog for the channel, and I'm so excited because it gives me an excuse to buy books. So I went shopping a few days ago and I bought 3 books from Barnes & Noble. I did record it. Sorry, there's somebody over here mowing grass. But I did record it and I made a short video about it, and I'll put a few clips in here so you can see what I got. Hey guys, I'm outside my Barnes & Noble. I wanted to come today and get a book, and I just thought it'd be fun to bring you along with me. Let's go.
I've been feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spent my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or be someone else. No one's stopping me now. I'm gonna skip my breaks. I'm gonna make mistakes. I just wanna feel alive. It's just what I do when I'm out, so.
But today I am going to a different Barnes & Noble. Of course, I'm bringing you guys along with me so you can see the lovely store and all the books and the table and all the things that they sell. I wanted to take a look at fantasy section. I don't have any specific book in mind, but I'm just obsessed with fantasy books now. Really, ever since we read Fourth Wing, I have just been obsessed with the fantasy worlds and trying to read more fantasy style books. And I will put a link to that vlog up here if you guys missed it. So yeah, let's go. I'll bring you guys with me and let's check out the store together.
You're a rebel, getting into trouble. You're kind of like a fire, like a fire, like a fire. Unpredictable, so original. You will never backing down, backing down, backing down. That's what I like about you. So dangerous, I get this rush when I'm with you.
This is a great book.
You're so different, kind of ignorant. You don't care what people say, people say, people say.
This book, The Hunting Wives, is one of only 6 books that I've ever DNF'd. I'm a completionist. I like to finish all the books, but you guys, I could not take that one. It is not recommended.
You're a rebel, getting into trouble. You're kind of like a fire, like a fire, like a fire. Unpredictable, so original. You will never backing down, backing down, backing down. That's what I like about you.
So I had to give a little bit of a story since I saw this book in Barnes & Noble, and Amanda and I have kind of a history with this book, and the one you just saw, which is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And I originally had read this a few years back. I can't remember, like 2016, 2017. It was when Amanda and I had worked together,
and I read it. I picked it up, very short read. I think I read it within a day, and I was riveted for the longest time with this book. And I thought, oh my God, there's going to be like this huge twist ending at the end of this book. And when I got to the end, I was so infuriated by the ending of this book that I remember I threw it across the room, just disgusted that the ending was what it was. I'm not sure if anyone has read it. Maybe someone else. I've heard people actually like it even after reading the ending too. So I was thinking maybe it's just me. But at the time, I said to Amanda, because she was reading like thrillers like I was, and I said, you need to read this book. I remember at the time, I think I texted her and was like, you need to read this book because I need to talk to somebody about it. So she picked it up. I think she also read it within a day. It was a short read. And she had the same reaction. And I feel like we clicked even more after that because we agreed on that one book. And after that, we talk about books all the time. Obviously, have this channel now, Kept in Touch. So that helps us keep in touch too, to constantly talk about books. But when I saw that book in Barnes & Noble faced out, it made me laugh out loud because of the story behind reading it and how she and I kind of bonded over that book. So. All right, guys, book haul video. I'm at the end of my book haul after I did a big load of shopping at Barnes & Noble, and time to see and unveil everything that I ended up choosing to buy. And there were some I had to put down. I wanted a lot, but I still got a crazy amount of books. I'm trying to make myself feel better by saying that I at least have bought things that I've wanted for a while, and I had some gift cards, and I had a bad day, and but still, I probably bought too many. I can't even get through what I have now, but I'm sure people out there feel the same way, that there's sometimes you just want to go to a bookstore, see everything that's new, see everything that's on display, get a chance to look at all the new books, all the pretty books, and get to see everything that you want to buy and just let yourself buy some. I haven't done a haul like that this large in a while, so it's not like I get a chance to do this all the time. And it was just one of those days. I felt like I ended up doing this on a whim, even though me and Amanda had discussed doing it. I just had that kind of day where you're like, you know what? I just want to feel better and go do something for me, and this will do it. So I had a chance to take a look at a ton of great new books and ended up buying a lot of books that I'm going to go over. And when Amanda originally had talked about doing a book haul, she had mentioned doing it where like ordering books online and unboxing them. But I like going to the bookstore, and I like supporting bookstores. I like being there, and I could have ordered, from Barnes & Noble or from somewhere. But I'm an instantaneous, needed, impatient person. And I just wanted to be around books today anyway, so it was just that kind of thing. But I have quite a few to go through. I didn't even count. There's a lot. So the first one that I have, and I'm just going to start off with what's on top. So the first one is, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you guys saw the video where one of my 5-star reads from this year is, I had read Daisy Jones, and I also loved The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And there's a couple more I want to read from her. I made a decision. I had 2 in my basket. I ended up taking out 1, even though I didn't want to put it back. But I ended up choosing Malibu Rising. I've been wanting to read this. I heard good things about this one too. I don't feel like I've heard anything bad about any of her books. But this one takes place in the 80s, and it's about the family of a famous singer and his children, and about a blowout party that they have. And the story takes place over one night, and I guess the party gets out of control. I didn't necessarily get it for that storyline I just like the way she writes, and she ends up, the way she just writes her characters and writes the plot, it's just riveting to me no matter what she writes about. So I chose this one, and hopefully it's as good as the other ones that I have gotten from her.
I am back home from my trip, my second trip to Barnes & Noble, and I'm going to show you guys my haul. But first, I want to go over the first 3 books that I bought that you guys saw in my little short video that I posted on the channel. The first one is Daughter of the Pirate King. This is a book that has been on my TBR for a while, and they just redid the covers, and they have this edition with the beautiful sprayed edges. So when I saw that, I wanted to go out and get it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm curious about it, and hopefully if I like it, then I will pick up the second and third book that are coming out. They're also gonna have similar pictures with a female on the front and pretty sprayed edges. They're just gonna be different colors.
Next, and I was super excited. I didn't know that Catriona Ward had this book, because as you guys know, in July I'm going to be doing Sundial, and that one won an international award. But this one I never even heard of. It's called The Girl from Raw Blood. So this one is about a family curse, and it's a girl named Iris, and she's the last in the lineage of her family, and her father, I guess, made her promise to not fall in love, to kind of break the curse, and she dares to fall in love. But it sounds like it's a gothic tale. But again, I think you guys know, after I read Catriona Ward's Looking Glass Sound, I would read anything by her. I'm really hoping that she has written other things that are as good, because now I have several from her. So I'm looking forward. I love that I saw this, because I didn't even know this existed. And that's one of the that's the thing about bookstores. And sometimes you can find things when you're scrolling online, but when you're in a bookstore and you just happen upon books, especially ones you didn't know existed or something that looks really great, that's the whole point of being able to go to a bookstore and find things. And I love that so much. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know when I'm going to read this. A lot of these books, I have no idea when I'm going to end up reading this, but it's going to be added to a TBR stack.
The next 2 books that I purchased are fantasy novels that I have been looking at for a really, really long time. The first one is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. I have never read Brandon Sanderson, and I know that sounds crazy because I love fantasy books so much, but I've never read him, and I have heard wonderful things about his books. So many people have read the Mistborn series and have loved it, and they've said that this magic system in this series is their favorite magic system of all fantasy books. So I really want to read this one, and they just this year, I think like back in January or February, they released book number 1, the new cover design, and I actually really love these covers. I like these more than any of the other Mistborn covers that I've seen. So I thought, I saw it at the store when I was looking for Daughter of the Pirate King, and I just thought, oh, I might as well just get it now, because I've just really been wanting this. And honestly, when I've been looking in stores for this book, most of them have the second and third book in the trilogy with these new redesigned covers, but I haven't been able to find the first one. So I'm really glad that I saw this, and I actually think this was the last one at that store. So
next on the list, I just recently saw someone talk about this book, and I've only read one Colleen Hoover, which is Verity. And I saw someone say, I guess Layla is one of her first novels that she wrote years and years ago. I think a lot of her novels she had written and self-published like years and years ago, and then she got popular on Book Talk within the past couple years. But Verity was just crazy. It's like that Frida McFadden, way out there. And a lot of her other ones I thought were romance. I thought this was romance. And this one does, someone told me that or not someone told me, but someone had mentioned, I want to say it was on Book Talk, that this one is very similar to Verity, and I'd never heard that before, so I thought, what? And so I saw it when I was at Barnes & Noble, and I thought, okay, I have to take a look at this one. And the storyline does sound similar to Verity, because it's not about a famous author, though. It just sounds like it's a couple, and the wife gets in an accident, and the husband is having a hard time being able to talk with her for some reason. I don't know how devastating this accident was, but he starts to get close to another woman. And I'm sure there's going to be a twist, just like there was in Verity. So even though I love Verity and you don't want to keep reading the same story, I thought this one was different enough that I wanted to try it. And because I saw the person talking about it, I was like, They were like, if you love Verity, you have to check this out. There are a lot of the similar elements. The story kind of sounds the same, so I hope it's not exactly the same, but we'll see. And God knows when I'll be able to get to it, but we'll see. All right.
Next book I picked up on my first run is Jade City. I did read Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee and was really disappointed in that book, but I have heard amazing things about this trilogy and I just can't help it. I did borrow the audiobook from Libby. If you guys don't know what Libby is, it's an app you can download, and most libraries will have accounts with that app. So if you have a library card, you can register your library card and then you can borrow books to read on an e-reader or audiobooks to listen to for free. But I did get the audiobook from the library and I started listening to it, and I got just a couple of chapters in, but for some reason, when I listen to fantasy novels on audiobooks, I have a hard time getting into it. I have a hard time really picturing what's going on, so I decided to just stop listening to the audiobook and go out and get my own copy. I did look at the library. The library didn't have any physical copies, so I just went, and when I saw this at the store, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to get it because I really want to read it. It's been on my mind a lot. I can't find a I can't find a library copy anywhere. And again, this is another one where when I go to the stores and look for these books, I can find copies of book 2 and book 3 of the trilogy, but I have a hard time finding the number 1. So I went ahead and grabbed it when I saw it.
All right. Next is In the Bag That Never Ends, Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance by Alison Espach. And I wanted to read this a lot when it was in hardcover. It really reminded me when I had read about this one from Sally Hepworth. And I don't think I've talked about Sally Hepworth on this on any of the episodes I've done, but Sally Hepworth is one of my favorite authors. She just has really great books, fiction with some mystery kind of thriller mixed in, and has some twist in it too. She wrote The Soulmate, which is her last one, and that one was really good too. So this one is about sisters, and there is a missing sister, which is almost like I just read Secret Book of Flora Lee, but this one is present day, and the disappearance haunts the other sister and the boyfriend of her sister. And I think she ends up getting involved with the boyfriend that her sister had when they were, I want to say high school. So I just thought this was a very interesting, very well written book is what it sounded like. A lot of people were saying how good it was. So that's the next one that I bought from this book haul.
So now let's get into the books that I bought today at the second Barnes & Noble. And the first book that I picked out is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. He's an author, again, that's very, very popular. I have not read him yet. And American Psycho, I feel like, is one of those classics. I know they did a movie on it. I've seen the movie a really long time ago. I know vaguely what it's about, but I heard that the book is very different than the movie. So I'm very curious to get into this one.
All right, next, I forgot that I did buy another Gatchran Award. I don't even know. I think there's only one other book maybe that I haven't bought of hers, but this one I had originally, it was the first one I had heard of with her, and I almost bought it back when this was out in hardcover, and I kept hearing very different things about it. Some people were saying it was so out there and almost in a negative way, and it didn't make sense. And some people said it was like the best book they ever read. And I was hearing so many different things I didn't know, and I ended up not buying it. But The Last House on Needless Street is about I think they're a family. It's about a house where these people live, and it just sounds very strange. And there's a girl that never leaves the house. There's an alcoholic father or man who is sitting in front of the TV all day. And I think a talking cat. And I don't know if that's a spoiler because someone mentioned a talking cat. And I think that's the first time I was like, I don't know, that sounds a little strange. It gave me very much Stephen King vibes. It is a horror book. And I thought, at the time, I didn't want to read it because it sounded so odd. Now that I loved her, the one book I read by her, I now bought 2 books. I promise there's no more of hers in this bag, but I did buy this one too. I almost only bought one of them because I still have to read Sundial, but I was just surprised by the other one I didn't even know existed, and I had to buy that one. So this one, I didn't get kicked out of the basket. Neither one of them did.
The next book is a book that I really don't know much about at all, the book or the author, but when I saw it in the store, it kind of caught my eye, and I picked it up and read the back because I was curious, and that is The Harbor by Catherine Engelberg. This is a non-US author. She lives in Copenhagen, and I always love reading books from authors outside of the US. I know I've talked about that before on this channel, especially kind of dark mysteries. So basically this book is about a 15-year-old that disappears, and they're searching for this kid. What the line that got me on the back is, in The Harbor, international best-selling author Catherine Engelberg ups her game with a novel of breathtaking suspense as she explores the risk of protecting the most vulnerable among us and seeking against all odds to bring them home. And it just kind of spoke to me about protecting the kids and trying to get them home. So I grabbed this one.
Oh, there's a few more down in this never-ending bag. All right, The Guest by Emma Cline. I listened to a podcast that Emma Cline was talking about this one. She had written The Girls, which I never read, heard good things about it. And this one sounded, the way it was described was very The Talented Mr. Ripley. What was that one called? Something Talented Mr. Ripley. I know there's a movie. I saw the movie for sure. I didn't read the book. And it was about, this one is about the main character is a woman instead of how that was a man. And very manipulative, kind of just wandering through life and getting into different situations, but not necessarily an innocent character. And I don't know what else. They didn't spoil it in the podcast interview. But the way they described it, they said if you read thrillers typically and don't really read literary, which I do read literary fiction, but they said this would be the book for you. And since I read both, I thought, that kind of sold me on it. So it's been sticking in the back of my head as I want to add it to a TBR. And I feel like every time we've had a month of doing our TBR, I feel like it gets filled up with things that we're planning, and the stuff that I've wanted to read aren't being able to get shoehorned into those. But I saw this and I was like, no, I have to pick it up at least. I'll be one step closer to getting it read instead of not even having it. So this one is another one for my book haul.
The next 2 books were buy one get one half off, And to be honest, I can usually resist those sales, surprisingly, just because I am a bargain hunter and I do a lot of shopping in secondhand shops and at my library book sale. But they had a fantasy table, as you guys saw in the montage of the bookstore, and I couldn't resist. The first one that I got was one I've been eyeing for a very long time, and that is The Shade of the Gods by John Gwynne. This book has been on my mind for a while. It originally caught my eye when I was browsing in a Books A Million back in January or so at the beginning of the year. So I've been considering this book for about 6 months. However, I have the first novels of so many fantasy series that I need to read and I already own. So I've been kind of putting off buying this book. However, but when I saw it on the buy one get one half off, I had to. I couldn't resist that sale. So I thought now's the time to get it.
And we have a few more in here. So this one was on my June TBR, ironically, and I never picked it up because when I put it on my June TBR, it had not come out yet. It was in June. And it sounded like a comedic, almost maybe science fiction / fantasy, speculative. I don't even know what genre to put this in, to be honest, but it's about a woman who she was murdered, but she was brought back as part of, I don't know if it's an experiment. I think it said like an institution brought her back. I don't know. When I read this originally, it sounded so interesting to me and different. I love having different types of books. So I saw it today. I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to buy that for my June TBR. And there it is. So I don't know which one that one's going to get read either, but it is now in my pile of books at home.
The second book of the buy one get one half off fantasy table is a book that I know nothing about. I've never seen before, but I picked it up and read the back and it seemed intriguing to me, and it is In the Shadow of Lightning by Brian McClellan. And again, I don't really know much about this author. I haven't heard much about this author. He did have another book trilogy on the table, the first book of that trilogy on the table. So I was kind of like, ooh, I should, that one caught my eye as well. So I thought, oh, I should try that one. And then I saw this one, and this one seemed to be a little more what I'm in the mood for. And it's basically about an outcast that has to go back to his village because his mother has died, and he goes back to figure out what happened to her. And he kind of teams up with a ragtag band of people that he kind of a found family aspect that he solves this mystery with. So I can't wait to read it. I love the whole ragtag team of misfits that come together and form a found family. I think those are interesting tropes in books. So I went ahead and picked this one up as part of the buy one get one half off deal.
And there's still a couple more. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I actually had looked up her name before because I saw an interview with her, and the way she described pronouncing her name stuck with me because she said like King Kong but with a W. So Kuang. So R.F. Kuang, she wrote Babel and The Poppy Wars. I'm saying it slowly because I feel like I'm getting that title wrong, but I didn't read any of her fantasy. The podcast I had heard her on, she had been writing this. I think she was advertising Babel, and I had heard a ton of good things about Babel, and I almost picked that up, but it looked so intimidating to me that I ended up not reading it. And that was a while ago. I don't even remember when that was, but she had mentioned this book when she was being interviewed, and she said how much she had a passion for what she had been currently reading and editing. And she said it was called Yellowface, and it's a scathing, I think she said it was a scathing portrait of the publishing industry. I don't know what nationality she is, but I think she was trying to bring up the commentary on how there have been people writing stories from the perspective that they're not from. So in this story, the main character is white, and her best friend, I want to say in the story, I think is Asian, and her best friend dies, and she steals the draft of a book from her best friend and pretend it's hers. And it's a portrait of showing the publishing industry and all of the prejudices and everything that exists in the publishing industry. So I thought it sounded real, and I've heard it's really funny. I've heard that you can't put it down. I've seen a couple people say that they read it in one day. I've heard nothing but good things about this book. So I really wanted to read it. She made me want to read it by the way she talked about it, and she wasn't even advertising that book at the time. I'm sure there are interviews since this just came out like May, I think. And I haven't even listened to anything recently, but I would want to listen to her. I love listening to podcasts sometimes because authors or somebody are talking about books that they wrote and you hear the story behind them, and it's just fascinating. There was one on Gabrielle Zevin that she did for Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, which is another book that I love. And the way she talked in it, I feel like made me want to read it. I bought that book and I absolutely loved Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow. All right, I'm getting to the bottom, but still not the last one. So, last two. So I did buy, I think Amanda is reading this now, or she was planning on reading it. I've never actually read Riley Sager, which is crazy to me because I'm a huge thriller fan. So I heard good things about this one, and I think Amanda had it in one of her videos. They had a bunch of Riley's books. I almost bought one of the paperbacks, but something made me buy this. I actually like reading paperbacks better. I think holding it and just portable. I tried e-reading and that's not for me. I tried, but I don't really necessarily like reading a hardcover. They're just awkward and I don't know, they hurt. But this one looked really good, and of all of them, though there are a bunch with Riley Sager that I'd probably pick up. So this one is very similar to what sounds like Lizzie Borden, where 1920s, there's a girl, 17 years old, accused of murdering her family. She's the only one left living. She says she didn't do it. So there's someone, I think, tasked to help her write her story, or tasked to talk to her or something along those lines. And once she starts listening to this girl's story, she realized there's more than people realize. And I'm not sure what that is, but hopefully it's twists and turns and things that I love in stories. So that one got my attention, and I picked that one up instead of all the other paperbacks. The last one is actually super interesting looking, and even the cover looks like a VHS tape. And at first, Dead 11 by Jimmy, I never heard of this author. I don't even want to try to pronounce that name because I'm probably going to butcher it. And this one sounded so crazy. And I know I bring up Black Mirror, Twilight Zone, all those kinds of shows, but reading what this one is about reminded me of all those shows, and just seems to fit into what I like about those type of books, where they're just kind of crazy and out there, and there's more to the story and you want to know what that is. So this one is about a town, I want to say in Maine, which I realize there's a lot of books in Maine. Like, that seems to be a theme. And what's funny is my friend Sarah lives in Bangor, Maine, and when I had gone to visit her with my best friend Kristen, we actually got to go outside of Stephen King's house, which was really cool. And it was when I don't remember if it was It Part 1 or Part 2 was in the theater. and he had a red balloon on the outside of his place, and then we got to see the movie in a drive-in, which, you know, barely exist anymore, but that was a very cool experience. And Maine is a really cool place, but it just seems odd that so many books take place in Maine. So this one is about a town that's obsessed with 1994, and they're living as if, and it's current day apparently, but they're living as if 1994 is their reality. And even the line that said people are obsessed with the OJ trial, which was happening in 1994. And I was in 10th grade in 1994 because I remember all of that. But I just thought that was a very strange premise. And reading the book jacket on this one convinced me that this is something I want to read. So I think some of these are going to pop up in my August TBR. Maybe some will be in my September TBR. But there are new books coming out all the time, so who knows what'll get knocked off. But I bought a crap ton of books. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I didn't mean to do it even 10, but 10 books in this book haul. And I am really excited about all of them. That's a lot. So tell me which ones that either you have read or anything that you want us to do a vlog on. If you have any similar thoughts about what you do when you have a bad day, do you also go to the bookstore and take a look at all the books? So thank you for going over all the books in my book haul, and hopefully Amanda has a good book haul as well. And till next time.